What happened? Like they just had the funeral on the public funeral on September 21st. I mean, 11 days after he passed away. And then a couple of 3 days later, everybody's sort of walking around in a haze and a daze. Not Erika. Not Erika. She's already planning the Megyn Kelly stop. This is an internal text from TPUSA dated September 24, 2025. Hey, MK, that's Megyn Kelly, MK tour team, wondering if there's a headshot they can use for Erika for all the tour materials. For what? Is Erika doing the tour? Says Andrew Colvette. Yes, according to so-and-so, the Glendale stop. I think even Andrew Colvette at that point was like, really? We're doing tours already? Like, we're bouncing back that quick? Should we be doing tour stops on or discussing tour stops 3 days after the public memorial? Yeah, I think so. This is where we've played this clip before. This is the discussion that Erika Kirk had on the tour, the final stop.
That you were a businesswoman in New York when you first got interested in Turning Point. So what were you doing in New York?
Remember that question, ladies and gentlemen. What were you doing in New York? What were you doing in New York? This is a great question. Thank you, Megyn, for asking it. Shirley, we're about to get an answer.
So to go back a little bit further, I mean, right now, first and foremost, I'm a daughter to the King, to the Most High.
Okay, that's nice. What were you doing in New York, ma'am? That was the question on the table. How far back are we going? You said to go back a little bit. I guess you're going back before you were in New York. So
the most important title, if you will. And my husband, in August, before all this happened, he had a event where he had some donors at. And one of the first questions they asked was, God forbid if something happens to you, like what would happen next to Turning Point? And Charlie made a really interesting point. He said companies, example, Apple, Macintosh. He said,
I just point out that Apple and Macintosh are the same company, but that's okay.
They're founder-led. He said, but what I have built will one day, if I'm not around, be vision-led.
Okay, the question on the table, ma'am, was what were you doing in New York before you met Charlie? I'll let you continue. I just wanted to remind you the question.
And he had made mention at the end, Erika will do a great job running it. And when I watched that video this week, it really put into perspective my youth and what I went through growing up and what I witnessed, my mom having her own company and being a single mother and watching her be the blueprint of, I'm not afraid of raising my children alone because I saw my mom do that. I'm not afraid of being a CEO because I saw my mom do that. The only thing that I fear, to be fully transparent with you, is being out of the alignment of God's will, because I feel like that is a very dangerous position to be in.
Okay. The question was, what were you doing in New York? It's a great question. We're all curious. We'll let you continue. Hopefully we're about to get there.
And so for me, growing up, when I was in New York, it was one of those moments where I really trusted God. That's where I needed to be. I prayed on it at first because originally I was living in LA. And I said, Lord, if this is where you need me to be, make it so clear. Bought a one-way ticket to New York, one suitcase. My mom was like, what are you going to do when you're there? I was like, I'll figure it out once I get there. I just know that's where the Lord needs me. And so many people questioned that. They said, you're such a strong Christian. Why would you go to such a dark city? And I said, the more that you take the light out of a dark place, the darker it gets. So that's where I'm going. And I was there, and
yeah. But when I moved to New York,
okay. So what were you doing in New York? Well, we're not going to find out. She didn't want to talk about what you were doing in New York. Tells me we need to push. What were you doing in New York?